Okay, so tell us about the year since kind of like the start of the Bones process, when you started writing and recording in Thailand.
Well, we came back after that, and after it was all done and mastered and everything, we went straight out on tour. And I think it was our own headline tour, I believe, at the beginning of the year. And we did some underplay tours. It's around the release of Bones, and we wanted to kind of bring it down back to the small clubs, make it all intimate, and with the kind of hope to sell out really quick. And it did, which was lucky. So yeah, sold out really quick, and we had, I think it was about 2 weeks worth of shows, and it was all kind of small clubs, like 200 cap, like really small, just to kind of drum up some excitement around the kind of release of the album. So we did that, and that was a real success. And then straight after that, we went out to Europe, and we brought our friends Low and Atlantis, and we brought them out, and we basically did the same over into Europe, and then went up to Scandinavia, did a few shows up there, and then I think we came back after that. We had a little bit of time to prepare for like all the festival season, so we played Reading this year, which was awesome, and also Download, which is really cool. So yeah, we've been basically busy touring and playing shows basically since then. And then we've recently we went out to Australia. We went to Australia and Japan. It's our first time out in Japan. So we went to Australia. We went out on tour. Sorry, before that, went to Europe. So straight after Low and Atlantis, all makes sense now. Straight after Low and Atlantis, we came back, had a bit of time to prepare for the Lost Prophets tour. So we went out with them as main support out in Europe. So that was probably about 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks, and then from Amsterdam, I think that's the last show, we flew over to Australia, and then we did, I think it was about 2.5 weeks as well, with a band called Tonight Alive, and they're friends of ours that we brought over to the UK, and so we basically did almost like a tour swap, and then played some shows out there, and then straight after that went to Japan for like 3 or 4 days. It was our first time in Japan, and it was really, really cool.
How have you found the reaction in different countries? Because obviously obviously Japan is a completely different culture from ours, whilst Australia and America is a bit more similar.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's just cool to kind of go to new places and to see people turning up to your shows. I mean, that's obviously awesome in itself. But it's really funny how like, in Australia, like you said, like in the UK, it is very similar. And if someone hasn't heard your stuff, they're kind of a bit more wary, and they kind of like, it's kind of like a bit more reserved, I guess, in that sense. And if they enjoy it, they kind of like, kind of tell you after. But in Japan, regardless of whether they know your songs or not, they just go mental. I think they're just grateful for like a band to come over from like another country, and it's really cool because I don't think I've seen a crowd so passionate as like a Japanese crowd. It is really cool to see. I mean, they go absolutely nuts when you're playing, and then as soon as you stop, and then like Gus will talk, it's just complete silence, and then you start playing again, and there's just like hysteria. So it's really, really cool, and it's definitely like an eye opener. And we'd love to go back to Japan. It's such a cool country. And then we came back after that, after Japan, and then we did Reading Festival. We did like the few key festivals there, and then we just come back from America, 6 weeks in America.
How did the 6 weeks in America go? Because obviously America's a massive country, so trying to actually cover it and tour over there is a lot harder than obviously over here, where everything's a bit closer together.
True, yeah. It kind of blows your mind how small the UK is in comparison, and like it feels like you haven't actually done any touring, like some proper touring, until you go over to the States. It's our first time, and is a real eye-opener for us to. I mean, it's such a big country, and we were basically the first band, an opening band on the Seether tour, out of 4 bands. But we were playing to quite large crowds, and we were really lucky to kind of get that slot in America as the first US tour. So it was really cool. So yeah, just going from place to place in America. We started off in like the Midwest, like right in kind of like the heart of Middle America, where it's totally different in terms of like fan base and like the music they're exposed to and everything else. So that was a real eye opener for us, and but it was really positive. Like everyone, kind of like related to our music and they got into it, and people coming up to us after the show and saying how much they enjoyed it. So that was really cool.
Do you find it's kind of like not starting again, but it's like over here you've now kind of established quite a fan base?
Yeah.
Whilst over there, you know, you're fairly unknown in the grand
totally.
schemes of
Yeah,
things.
it's kind of I mean, our kind of attitude towards being a band that isn't known in any kind of territory is really just to work it. So you play your hardest on stage, but it's also kind of what you do after. Like, you know, we always go straight to the merch stand, you know, not only selling as much as we can, but just to talk to people and like hear what they have to say, because that, you know, that's awesome. And then we go outside, we sell CDs, we hustle quite hard, like we're in people's faces, but you know, just to try to get the name out there. But also it's like an opportunity to kind of like talk to people, take photos or whatever.
Does that kind of remind you of when you first started in the
It totally
obviously
does,
you no longer need to hustle outside
Yeah,
gigs.
but that's exactly what we did in the UK. And like when we were touring with you know, bands like Lost Prophets or Fight Style, that took us out. They're our kind of first like bigger shows. We were always outside, you know, hustling and kind of talking to people, and I think that really helped us kind of like get to where we are, I guess. And there's a lot of people that come to our UK shows that kind of, you know, we're seeing those same people from the early days.
Yeah.
When we used to sell CDs outside. And so if we can replicate that in the US and do the same thing, then, you know, hopefully it'll work. And, you know, we were doing that every day in the US, and we saw like the kind of rewards, like we were selling CDs, but we're getting there's a lot more interaction that way. And it's fun as well, you know, like we actually enjoy kind of like, you know, talking to people, meeting new people and seeing what they have to say. And people are different from like everywhere in the world, so it's like, it's really funny, it's really cool to see how different people are. That's cool.